Welcome to the Catherine Vandome and Me podcast.
Hashtag hosts and the HQFM quiz and bingo software are proud to sponsor the Catherine Vandome and Me podcast. With HQFM quiz and bingo software, you can use this interactive quiz software at any venue. All you need is an internet connection. Go to hashtagquiz.co.uk for your free trial today.
Hello and welcome to Catherine Vandome and Me, and today I'm joined by an incredibly talented guest. He is a Elton John international tribute artist, and just like Elton, he's also a musician and can play the keyboards wonderfully, as well as having a superb singing voice. He's also one of my closest friends, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce today the brilliant, the talented Mr. Mark Tedin. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. You're looking very dazzling out there.
I'm literally dazzling in the sun. It's absolutely sweltering here in Greece at the moment. We're in the middle of a heat wave, so.
You're in the middle of a heat wave, are you?
Yes.
And whereabouts in Greece are you, Mark?
In Zakynthos. I'm based in Zakynthos.
Wow. And just tell us a little bit, if you can. Obviously, we know you're an Elton John tribute act. You've done so many other things as well, and I can't wait to talk to you today. You've had such a colourful, exciting life, as colourful as your sparkly top that you're wearing today.
I would interject. I would have put the wig on as well, but it's currently on the washing line at the moment.
Where else would you put it?
Exactly. It's like my little ginger rat, in all honesty. Well, it looked like that when it came out of the wash anyway. So. Well,
speaking of little rats, but he's not a little rat, he's my little Tinker.
Hi, Tinker.
You just say a quick hello to Mark. You know Tinker very, very well.
I do.
He's sweltering as well here. He's nearly 16 now. So we'll just say a quick hello. I won't put you on my head. Oh. So I wanted to just say that we're both watching today, and it's great to see you, Mark. So you're over in Zakynthos, and how many years have you been there now?
This is my third full year of living here, but I've actually this is my 9th season, believe it or not. 9 years of working here, 9 summers.
Wow. And you loved it so much that you actually have chosen to move there, is that right?
That's correct, yes. Yeah. I still have family in the UK and some in Spain. So it's nice to, come out of once the season ends, it's nice to come back and visit and, do a little bit of things here and there. But I'm mostly based here now. So.
Oh, that's incredible. And you have such a talent. I mean, I've been watching over social media all of your shares. Remember, I didn't know, I've known you for many years, but I didn't know you could actually play the keyboards and you were playing it live. I thought you had it on a little setup, but you're just phenomenal. I mean, your keyboard is all flashing it looks incredible. It's like the Blackpool, the Blackpool Wurlitzer, isn't it?
Well, do you know what? If I come from a town called Southport, as you know, which is not far from Preston. And it's funny, actually, because I've always looked over from the coastline and you can see Blackpool Towers. So what the hell? If you can't live near Blackpool anymore, then bring Blackpool with you.
That's fantastic. And what's great, Mark, is what I'd love to do now I've heard a little bit about you is just tell me and our audience today a little bit about what you do. And then we're going to take you back in time and hear all about Mark Tedin. So just a little bit about what you do and what your act's about, Mark, over there in Zakynthos.
Of course. I mean, a bit of a backstory to the show that I do. I mean, I am first and foremost a massive Elton John fan, and I've loved his music for many years. And I actually, in regards to playing keyboards and piano, I actually started around the age of 6, and it was funny. My parents had a restaurant, and one of the people that the patrons that used to come into the restaurant was actually a well-known band, a pianist in a band called Jerry and the Pacemakers. And it was actually this particular gentleman who got me into playing. And so from that age, I started having piano lessons, keyboard lessons, and that started at the same time I got into singing through school choirs and dramatics, and then it just kind of went on. But that's a bit of backstory with that, which I've done things the wrong way round from what
Oh,
you
it doesn't
said.
matter. It doesn't matter.
I'm,
We're going to
I'm
hear
Elton
more
John,
about.
darling. I love doing things the wrong way round. Not really Elton John, obviously, but no, in truth, I absolutely loved his music for many years, and I've done various other tributes over the years before this. I think the difference, what made me delay starting this, and I think it's like 7 years I've been doing this now, was how can you incorporate doing something and doing it in such an ability of how you want it to come across. If
Yes.
you actually are first and foremost a fan of that particular person that you're tributing, it's a
Yes.
very delicate, fine balance. So for me, I thought, what the hell, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it, and luckily, it seems to have worked out really well. I think the difference in how I do my particular show, it's not just about the music, but because I am a fan of him, it's also about his story. And
Yes.
funny enough, I had a really nice comment from a member of the public in one of my shows just a week ago. This gentleman came up to me and he said, I really enjoyed your show, but what I really enjoyed was the backstory and the characterization that you do. So it's like you become Elton when you're performing. And it was like watching a mini stage version of Rocket Man, which to me I thought was a real, it was a real
Oh,
compliment.
yeah.
So I absolutely loved that. Um,
And I
but
think, Mark, that says everything about what your show is because it's an interactive show.
it is.
Tell us a little bit about that. How does that come into it?
I just love to try and get people to interact within the show. So, it's not just a case of telling them a story behind, oh, this song was released at this point, and there's elements of humor in there as well. Definitely tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
I can't swear like Elton would swear on stage because I would be lynched publicly, and obviously there's children in some of the audiences.
Well, that's
Um,
great. That's good to hear because there may be other Elton John artists that have got a different flavour to what they're doing. And what you're saying is that your particular production is all encompassing. So, all
yes.
age groups, because there's no bad language in there, you can actually go on stage anywhere globally. And that's really good for anybody listening to hear that potentially might want to book you because you can actually be afternoon or evening performance
Yeah.
and with children in the venue, which is great. That's great to hear, Mark.
I think also it's putting aside like the actual show itself and being the Elton tribute. I think as a performer generally and things that I've done in the past, it also helps you to read the audience,
Yeah.
which I'm sure you would understand as well with your background, that you have to learn to read your audience and the situation and the venue and everywhere you are at that point in time, and tailor your show at that specific point to that audience, that venue. And so my show is never exactly the same.
Oh, that's
It,
good to hear. Yeah.
it's it always I I've never really been a performer that wants to just do exactly the same thing time and time again. For me, that would be boring. So obviously, in the remit of being a tribute artist, there's only so much that you can do with regards to the songs. It's all going to be, you know, within the realms of what Elton John has done.
Yeah.
Um, but it's nice. There's a massive back catalogue, so the songs can change from week to week. Obviously, again, there's a limitation because certain songs you have to always do.
Yeah.
Some of the bigger numbers. I think I'd get lynched if I didn't do "I'm Still Standing" or
Yes.
"Candle in the Wind" or something, along those lines. But
So what you're
there,
saying is sometimes, because there's so many Elton John wonderful songs and brilliant classics, you sometimes do a proportion of those, and then another show you might add other ones. Is that right? Just so it keeps it a little. Great.
exactly.
That's great. So
It's really
anybody
important.
listening and they want it tailoring towards perhaps a particular event, you can actually tailor to that. So if it's all up and lively, then you can do those tracks and that kind of thing. Is that right?
Exactly. And actually, it's good as well because I do weddings as well. I've actually performed at weddings, and it's great because there is such a massive back catalogue, and there's a lot of love songs as well. That
Yes.
also, it's great that when you can have that conversation with the bride and groom, and in that situation, and you can literally tailor specific songs that they want within the show. Obviously within the remit of the time allowance that you've got to make sure that it all fits and works. So that's just a dialogue that you have with the, with in that situation with the bride and groom who are booking you. And for example, like with the first song, they may want a specific song.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely fine. Like your song is a great wedding first song. It's
Yeah.
it's a beautiful song about love. That's just an example. But
So that's fantastic. So what I'm hearing is you can actually literally go into any sort of venue. And what I've been watching, and the glory of where you live in Greece, is that your performances are predominantly outside. And I've been seeing you around these
can I
enormous
just
swimming
say at
pools.
that point, thank God with the heat.
Yes. Yes, but how wonderful to have that opportunity, Mark, to be able to just step outside with the palm trees and all the surrounds and the orange trees, and I think you've got one in your back garden, and that kind of beauty and scenery of where you live. It is just idyllic. You really are living everybody's dream, every artist's dream, and so you can eat, sleep, and breathe everything that you and I love more than life itself. And then you can step out and you've got these beautiful sort of swimming pools and tiered staging areas where you put your keyboards, that flashing lights, and there is your production.
I've got my wonderful dog as well, Hallie, my rescue.
Is
I've had
Hallie
her
there now?
she's currently sulking because it's too hot to go outside.
Oh, do you want to bring her and say a quick hello, and we'll do a hello
I
with
will.
Tinks?
She's a little bit heavier than Tinker, but she's not
It's
much.
all
So just
right.
bear
Let's have
with
a little
me.
look at Hallie.
Hallie, come here, baby girl. If you're a good girl, I'll give you a treat. I have to
But Elton
bribe her.
says, so say hello. Hello, Hallie. And this is Tinker. Can you wave?
Hello.
Can you say a quick hello? It's always good to meet people's gorgeous children. I call them children.
She is my fur baby.
Yes, and mine, because we don't have our own child, but we're blessed with these little tots.
We
Oh,
are.
she's gorgeous. Hello, Hallie. Can you hear me? Hello, beautiful. Thank you for introducing Hallie. It's always good to see people's
I'll pop
gorgeous.
her back on a cool mat.
Absolutely. Oh, she's gorgeous. Oh, great to see Hallie as well. And you've got the most magical mum, haven't you, Mark? Tell us a little bit about Gail, because she's your number one support. She videos you, she comes to your shows. I mean, you don't get a better support than that, do you?
No, I don't. Do you know something? She is my number one fan, to be honest with you. And she has been. She's not just my mum. And I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not a typical mummy's boy. My mother does everything for me and I can't survive. It's not about that. It's
Yeah, you've got love, Mark. You've got
there's genuine
proper
love there.
mother-son love. Yeah.
Yeah. And without going into too much detail about it, because obviously that's my mother's story. She's had cancer twice in her life. And I think from my perspective, you realize the importance and actually how delicate life is. And do you know, sometimes we'll have disagreements because we're both so alike.
Yeah.
In so many ways. But we will always apologize to each other. And I think we've just got that kind of very close relationship. It's a friendship as well.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Oh,
It's
she's a standout, a mile mum, and I consider her to be a second mum to me. I think she's one of the most beautiful human beings on the planet. I really do,
she's
and
a total empath.
absolutely, and that transcends to my friendship with you. I think the same of you, Mark. You've got all of her incredible qualities and your dad's qualities as well,
Likewise.
but but you've got such an incredible spirit, and I believe that's why our friendship is so strong as well. You have all the talent, and that aside, as a person, you really are. You're a kind spirited man, and you're always there for people, and you've supported me through the ups and downs, and we've had, my goodness, we've had some laughs along the way, which we'll cover in a minute.
Laughs along the way. I think some of the laughs that we've had along the way over the years would never go onto this video.
I think everybody's saying that. I don't know why.
Can I just ask? I'm going to have to take these off. They're actually
Of
steaming
course.
up right now.
So what? Yeah. So do you want to take your coat off as well?
Oh, please.
Yes.
I'm dying.
There you go. Let's see the real Mark Tedin. Here he is.
There we go.
So nice that you introduce yourself as Elton, and obviously now we've got this is the real Mark Tedin, and we're going to start talking now a little bit about you and your past. So thank you for sharing. So you've got these brilliant venues, hotels, casinos, you name it. You can perform in those venues, and for children right through to the elderly, and you really are loved by all, not just on stage but off stage as well, and that's an enormous legacy to have, Mark, and you've got great followings as well. So you really are, you're a gentleman through and through. And so now taking you back into your childhood, let's go all the way back to I don't even know where you were born. You may have been born in Southport, but I'm not sure.
I actually was.
You were, okay. So you were born in Southport, and where did you go to school? So if you can sort of take your mind out of Greece and the heat, and all the way back to the freezing cold UK.
Is it cold there at the moment?
It's humid, which isn't pleasant. I think it's like that globally at the moment, but it's
very humid here as well.
Yeah.
But with the heat, it's like glasses steaming up.
I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine it being much, much worse there. But you've got the beauty of that place, which is just stunning. True. But yeah. So basically, back to your childhood. So you're in Southport, and tell us a little bit about which school did you go to, and how things were when you were little.
Okay. I was born in Southport in a hospital that doesn't exist anymore, called Christiana Hartley's. I was born at 2 on a Sunday. But I can't remember the rhyme, but I know it's meant to be something nice on a Sunday anyway. Actually,
I thought you were going to say, I can't remember the event.
I can't remember most events, to be honest with you. But
I think that's just age.
That's just getting older. But no, I went to 2 primary schools, actually, because we moved. So originally I lived in a place called Marshside, which is a suburb of Southport, near to, it was, well, basically part of a suburb called Churchtown. And I went to a school called Marshside Primary. And then around the age of 6, 7, I think around there, it was a bit hazy, we moved to another village further along the coast, called Freshfield Formby, and then I went to a school there called St. Peter's Primary.
And how old would you be there then, Mark?
I think around 6, 7 years old when we moved around there. So
you started at one school and moved to a second school, is that right?
Yes.
How did that feel emotionally? Did that unease you, or was it not so bad, or?
Oh, right. Do you know something? I'm quite actually happy to talk about it. And what I'm going to tell you now doesn't come from a place of negativity at all. I believe that we are defined by our life experiences, and so it's fine. We actually moved for a number of reasons. My father's actually foreign. My father's Spanish.
Right.
And there was a few incidents that happened over a couple of years that led us to move away from where I originally went.
Okay.
Which actually did involve a court case and police and
Okay.
different things. But that's fine. Like I say, everything that happens in your life, you know, builds your character, makes you the person that you become.
Yeah.
And so it was more of a case that we had to move
Yeah.
and make a fresh start. There was basically incidents of racism. Both my
Right.
sister and myself were quite badly affected by it, to the point I couldn't really go out and play. I remember having
Okay.
a dog set on me. I remember going to a birthday party of a girl that I went to school with and being hung over the side of a bridge by her mother. There was some
Wow.
perpetrators that she actually got caught. There was some, like I said, there was a big court case, and
Yeah. In the
there was a
area that you were living in, basically.
yeah,
So you moved for safety. Yeah.
yeah. We actually had a tap that the police had to apply at that point to the Home Office to get a tap put on our phone, because we were receiving a lot of um, strange phone calls, shall we
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
2 year period leading up to it.
Isn't that sad, Mark? Isn't that
It
sad?
is. I think out of all of it, what makes me more sad as an adult is that and I'm really proud of both of my parents. I mean, my
Yeah.
father had, and I'm not ashamed in the slightest to say this. My dad came from, Spain, but at the time, it's not Spain that we know today. It
Yeah.
was a fascist regime that he grew up in. He
Yeah.
had no freedom to speak, to say anything, and he had no public schooling. He was very lucky because his mother died at around 11, 12 years old. He got sent to live with his auntie, who saw him in the street with no shoes on, you
Yeah.
know. And she paid for him to have a couple of years of schooling.
Mm.
And in that time, he learned to read and write. And he literally dragged himself up. He did his national service in the Spanish army, learned to be a chef, put himself through schooling and did that. And he learned to speak, oh God, English, obviously Spanish from birth. That's his first language. So Spanish, English, Italian. He speaks some French and he speaks Portuguese.
Yeah.
Speaks 5 languages,
Mm.
and I think he had about 3 years of schooling. So I'm proud of my
Yeah.
dad, and I'm
He's a
getting quite
wonderful
emotional
man.
about
I've
it
met him.
actually.
Good. He's a wonderful
Um,
man. Yeah.
and I think getting back to, out of everything that happened, the one thing that really does upset me was that my dad gave up smoking at that point for 12 months and saved up really hard
Oh.
to buy himself a brand new moped. And he had it about 48 hours, and it got taken from the house in the middle of the night and found smashed up in a ditch.
Oh, little things like that. And it's not a little thing, it's a huge thing if you're financially struggling and that's something that you've set your heart on.
You
That's
know,
that's terrible. And
it's
but that's very, very interesting. And you're not the only guest to discuss this terrible subject as well of racism. And it just shows, doesn't it, that we see the act, we see the artist in front of us, but there's always a backstory, and
yeah,
then that
definitely.
person's parents have their own backstory that leads us to be the people that we are and leads us to have the behaviors and choices that we have as well.
It does. And do you know something? I keep going back to that whole character building thing, and I don't mean it in a kind of like, oh, that's okay, brush it under the carpet, because it would be very wrong of me to say that it those things that happened in childhood didn't affect me. They
Yeah.
massively affected me.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm looking at it from a point now where I'm 43 years old.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of work on myself. It's a case of the fact that, going back to, one particular thing that really did badly affect me as a child, and as an adult actually, was one specific incident that I kind of glossed over earlier, about the being hung over the side of a bridge.
Yeah.
The truth of that particular event that happened, I was invited to this girl's birthday party that I went to school with. Her mother was kind of in cahoots, shall we say, with a number of people on this estate that were part of this campaign, basically. And I never forget it, because there used to be, you might remember, coming from where you come from, there used to be a little chef on the road in between Preston and Southport.
Yeah.
I think it's now an Italian ice cream parlour.
Okay.
And I remember being picked up in a white van. I think it was an escort van. I was in the back. There was a number of us, the children, and the dog that they had at the time. And I remember her telling them to, I don't know how it would translate, but they said to like nip me with their fingers like that,
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
and to kick me.
Yeah.
And I remember them going inside. Obviously, I was 6 when this happened.
Yeah.
And I remember being left in the van with the dog, obviously not in a great state at that age. I was traumatized. And I think they were in there for a couple of hours, or what it felt like a couple of hours.
Well, yeah, well, 5 minutes in a van is a long time for a child. Yeah.
And I remember driving them back, and I was crying and pretty much screaming by this point, because
Yeah.
it continued. And she stopped on a bridge, this girl's mother, because she'd had enough. She dragged me out the back of the van, hung me over the side, and it sounds almost stupid now, but at that age, I really believed her. And she hung me over the side of this bridge and said, "There are crocodiles down there. And if
Oh,
you don't shut up, and if you tell anyone about this, I will drop you. I will bring you here. I will drop you, and they will eat you."
wow. That's terrible.
And I didn't say anything. I actually closed up. I
Mm.
actually really closed up.
Yeah.
And she came into the school about a week later, 2 weeks later, and we had hand sinks in the hallway in Marshside Primary.
Yes. Yeah.
Time. One on that side, one on this side. And I remember, because if you're on the one side of the hallway and I'm on the other, then the boys' toilets were there on that side, and
Yeah.
I was on the opposite side using the sinks where the
Yeah.
girls' toilets were.
Yeah.
Not
It's
in
a
the
vivid.
girls'
What you're
toilets,
saying is it's a
but in the
vivid
hallway.
memory
It's
when
very
it's that
vivid,
vivid. Yeah.
very vivid. And I remember washing my hands and feeling a hand grab my arm like that, pull me like that. And it was this girl's mother. And she just said to me, it was just before we were about to go into lunch, "I hope you've not said anything." However, unbeknownst to her, the headmaster was behind it and he saw this.
Wow.
Luckily, and that's where, and I still didn't open up about exactly what happened for
Well,
many
you don't,
years.
because you're frightened, because you're in trauma, because you're a child. Yeah. Yeah. So
It
you
took me
block
many
it.
years. Yeah, it did. It took me many years.
And what
And
happened then,
actually,
Mark? Did the headmaster got involved, and then
yeah, a lot
yeah,
came out of things. She was actually banned from coming into the school.
right. So this was a parent of another child
Yes,
in that school, of
yes,
which you were friends with, but now the circumstances were then resolved with, like you say, without saying too much.
yeah.
And they were resolved professionally. So then you were moved out of that first school. So you
Yeah,
would
got to the
be,
point we had to.
yeah. So
Yeah.
actually, what you're saying is in the second school you were 7, so you were 6. Is that right when this event happened?
Around that age, yeah. Around
So a
that age. I
little
can't remember
boy,
the exact age. I was a
a
little
little
boy.
boy, yeah. And
And
so, go on.
I was lucky when I went to St. Peter's when we
Yeah,
moved away. Um, they obviously had been told everything that had
gone
happened.
on. Yeah.
And they actually gave me like a personal tutor to help me catch up with things and everything, because I was very
Wow.
withdrawn. And this lady was absolutely fantastic. I had some fantastic teachers. One particular teacher that I will always remember, she was very strict, but very firm, but very fair. And she was absolutely just a lovely lady, and I remember I actually cried the year that it ended with her, because she kind of got my confidence back.
Can you say
Um,
her name?
um, just bear with me a moment, because obviously
Yeah,
we're
try and
talking about
remember. If you
a
can
long time
remember,
ago.
Miss or Mrs.
It was Miss Parr,
There you go.
Miss Parr, and
So a big thank
the
you to
gr-
her if she's listening today. Yeah.
and another teacher, Mr. McHenry, um, and Mrs. Brooks, the lady that helped the tutor.
Because the teachers who step in and support us, which is part of their job. I mean, teachers have every hat going for care, and the teachers that are there for us, we never forget them. They
No,
hold a
we
very
don't.
special place in our heart.
Do you know, I have to say as well, there was a fantastic teacher at Marshside that last year who really tried to help.
So there was another teacher that helped, but you then moved on to your second primary school. And what I want to know is you obviously had this emotional encouragement from the
Yeah.
bullying and racism that you and the whole family were suffering. And your sister's an older sister, isn't she? Is that
Yes,
right?
she's 6 years older.
And
Do you
her,
know,
and do you want to share her name on here?
Lisa?
She's
She's
lovely,
very
isn't she?
shy. She's totally different to me. Well,
Is
I
she?
used to be shy. I used to be painfully shy. I think years of doing this job has changed that, in fairness.
Well, I was going to say, because that's why I wanted to take you back a little bit to your journey, so that anybody watching today who will be inspired by your productions can actually get to know the real Mark Tedin underneath and see how perhaps if they've gone through a similar pattern to what you have, not to let it keep you stuck in trauma, but actually to find what would you say would be a great advice and support for a parent or a child in your shoes, Mark, today going through that? What do you think they should do today?
Do you know, I think in any situation, if your child is in trauma or you're in trauma, speak out.
Yeah.
In any situation, never brush anything under the carpet, because all you are going to do is internalize it in some way, or the person that you see that's being victimized or going through some, even if it's not a situation like mine, if you see someone going through something, get them to speak out or enable them to have a situation where they feel they can speak out. Because if you internalize anything, all it's going to do is it's going to set you up for failure later on. It's going to take a lot longer for you to get through this kind of post-traumatic stress syndrome that you deal with, because you do these situations really do have a massive impact on your life. They impact decisions that you make with regards to, future relationships, who you let into your life. And actually, we talk about self-love a lot more now. And for me, my own journey, I used to when because I've suffered with, depression off and on throughout the years. I'm in a very good place now because I've done this work on myself. But what you realize, I remember thinking back in this negative kind of mindset, thinking, you know, sorry for I'll say it, I'm bloody self-love, sorry for swearing, what's this mean, this Americanism, oh, I love myself. And I realized it's not about that at all.
No.
It's about setting boundaries, knowing yourself, and knowing basically your boundaries and what you feel is acceptable to you, what
Healthy
you
boundaries,
accept.
Mark. Healthy
Healthy
boundaries.
boundaries.
Yeah.
And it's getting to a point where someone can say something to you and you think, that's your perception of me.
Yeah.
However, I know myself.
Yeah.
That's fine. You can have that perception of me.
Yeah.
But you hold that. You have that perception. I'll continue on my own path. I know who I am, and I'm happy with who I am. I like who I am. And to me,
Good,
that's
Mark. I think
self-love.
that's incredibly valuable what you've just shared, because and I agree with you there. And what you're saying is things that happen in childhood traumas, they do say on average it's about 21 years before you actually wake up and go, oh my goodness, this happened, unless you have the support mechanisms around you that includes your parents, and that is part of their job, whether they like it or not. That is part of their job to protect you. And you were blessed with Gail, weren't you? Because
I
she
was
was
very
there.
lucky. I was very lucky. I think, in all honesty, my journey through dealing with a lot of that from childhood would have happened sooner had I felt I could open up about it.
Right. So as a man, is it because you're a man, do you think, that you sort of thought I've got to be big and strong and look after everybody else, or how what was it for you, Mark? What was the reason that you didn't open up?
I think there's, do you know, I don't think there's any one particular reason. I do think the one biggest thing is, however much older I got, that childhood trauma of that blocking it out because I was told at that age that would happen to me. And obviously, as you get older, you know that's ridiculous. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to get eaten up by crocodiles in some random river between Preston and Southport. But it does create a very mental block. Yeah,
it creates fear as well.
It does. I remember being in my 20s and having panic attacks going on that road when I used to go to and actually what helped me, I started going to a theatre dinner theatre company called Create Theatre, which obviously you will know well yourself. It's how we met. And for me, that was kind of a therapeutic experience, forcing myself to go over that bridge every week to get to Preston.
Wow.
And that really did massively help me.
That's fantastic. So what I'm hearing you say is, on the parental point of view, your parents loved you, supported you, and got you and your sister moved into a different school so that you were safer, and you had some blessed, wonderful years in that school. Were there any inklings, before we move forwards into Create Theatre where we met, were there any inklings in your primary school of the entertainer in you, Mark? Did you do any productions?
Do you know something? Actually, we did do one, but not in the last primary school that I went to. It was in the first one, and I never forget it. It was something that was done very ad hoc.
Yeah.
Because we did, you used to have the big wooden kind of like blocks that you would make things with, like
that's it, the big brown blocks. Also great. Yeah.
And we built like this bridge to walk over, and we were like taking on characters, and it was just playtime. And the teacher observed it. Mrs. Burton, that was her name.
There you go, Mrs. Burton.
And she decided that we were going to have this random ad hoc performance of Billy Goat's Gruff.
What did you play, Mark?
I was one of the Billy Goats.
Were you?
Yeah, I was one of the Billy Goats.
Can you remember which one?
Oh, good God, no, it was far too long. I just remember doing it, and I remember it being quite sunny when we did it as well. It was just outside the classroom in a grassed area. But in terms
of that was your first sort of performance then as one of the goats.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest with you, it didn't really stop for me until I got to high school.
Yeah.
In terms of actually the music started before. And kind of like the theatre and everything, I had a massive interest in. I used to like going and to and seeing things, and it was when I kind of got into high school that I really got into proper performance, and I did drama. I had a great drama teacher.
Wow.
And that's
and where was your high school, Mark? What was your high school?
Formby High.
Yes. And your drama there, so you started, did you do any performances that you can remember at high school? And was your teacher there the first influence on you?
I just remember I just loved everything about drama in general.
Yeah.
And then while I was, obviously we would do the general kind of like plays, performances that you would do within school and things like that. But I always had an interest in drama and arts and music. And I always remember it was a bit later for me I was having my music lessons and everything already.
Did you do GCSE music, Mark?
I did, yes, and drama.
And did you do GCSE art?
Not art, but I did drama and music.
Fantastic, because you had to choose in our day. Yes. I know you're a little younger than me, but we had two columns. One was history and geography and everything I don't understand, and and maths, perhaps. No, maths was essential, wasn't it? And the other column had art, drama, and music all in the same column. And I have to say, God bless my mum and two other mums who went into school. And for just 1 year only, Mrs. Connor, my drama teacher, switched the columns so that I could do drama in the history and geography column and also take art. But I had to
You were
choose
very
art or music.
lucky.
Extremely, and they changed it back the year after because they didn't want us to have fun. And English was my love. You're very good at English as well, but then you're also good at maths. You can do it all, can't you, Mark?
I'm okay at maths, and I'm pretty good at like a mental arithmetic. Don't ever ask me to do algebra because it's just not going to happen. No, I'm not bad at maths, in fairness. I mean, I used to.
So did you study hard? The question I'm asking is, you were quite studious, I think, as well as creative?
I mean, to be honest with you, English was, I prefer English. I always preferred English like you.
Yeah.
But I had to do choices as well for GCSE. And again, my mother stepped in because I remember there was only 4 people in my year group that wanted to choose music, GCSE.
Wow.
I was one of them. And my mother fought my corner because they didn't really want to do it for 4 people.
Oh, so you had a similar situation.
Yeah, and they fought it. And unfortunately, I mean, I had an amazing music teacher, and it was funny. I mean, going back in before we got to that point, my music teacher found out that I could sing and play later than I'd already started with drama in school and got into the whole drama thing. She kind of called me out because I was a bit naughty one day in class, and I was speaking to someone because I'm a chatterbox, and she said, come on, and she made me sing, and and at the end she was like,
hang on, rewind. Your punishment was to stand and sing
in front of everyone.
I hope you did Ness and Dormer.
No, I can't remember what it was, but she kind of, her eyes lit up, and I had this she was a lovely lady.
If only that was everybody's punishment, we'd revel in it.
I loved it. Well, no, at the time I didn't. I was actually probably really nervous. I don't want to do this.
But Mark, you didn't. The point is, you didn't get school rules. I once showed a girl my mouth ulcer because I used to get mouth ulcers constantly in geography because I was in pain. It was only a second. I said, "Look at the size of my mouth ulcer," and that was it. We both got school rules. So you got to sing. I would have preferred that.
Well, she kind of turned around to me at the end of the. I need to have a word with you at the end of the class, and I was like, okay, and she kind of railroaded me into the school choir, and
wow.
I actually loved it, and
so she was a nice teacher. So your punishment was to sing. That's fantastic. Yeah. Did you have to choose a song, or did she? How was that?
I can't remember what it was. I think she told me what we had to do. It was something that we were listening to.
Oh, I see. So come and demonstrate the class because you're not listening. Yes. I understand. But it was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was.
She started your career.
It did. She did. I mean, the truth is, from going into Formby High School choir, we entered the Llangollen International Eisteddfods. We got highly commended in that, and I really grew a love of singing, and that developed. I had some singing lessons.
And when did you first know that you could sing? Was it that moment, or was it prior to that?
No, it was from going through in the choir. I knew I could sing. I knew as my voice broke as well. She was the first person to tell me I had a tenor range.
Okay.
Because it did. I literally, I'm half Spanish. Everybody, as you can gather by now from what I've told you, I literally woke up at 13 and I could shave every day.
Me too.
I know, you always steal my razors.
Mark, when I was 13, I looked like I was 9. So I think we know I was a little different. So
it's a good job I didn't know you back then, because you would never be the person to go to the bar underage, would you?
Oh, no way. No way. No way. I never got that opportunity. Even now, sometimes struggle. But no, basically, I think for you, you're saying you had that wonderful Spanish backdrop, and you were maturing sooner than others. I'm still waiting to mature, and you were maturing sooner than others, and you basically, your voice obviously developed, and that's your singing voice.
Developed, yeah, and it
Wow.
developed quite young. It just broke. I think within the space of the first year, I was in the male soprano, and then it kind of went down, and then it was like, no, now you're tenor range.
Fantastic, but how brilliant to know what your vocal range is, Mark, at such a young age, and have that ready to train, if you like, and work with. So you then did your GCSEs, and where did you go to college?
I went to Southport College, and I did a BTEC National Diploma. Do you remember those?
Yes, a lot of people have done those.
In I think it was either computer science or computer studies, something like that.
Oh, so what I'm hearing is you went down the education route because you're a clever clogs as well, which is wonderful to hear. You basically went down the education route of getting yourself a proper training, which I commend for everybody to do. Always have a backup. And you studied computer science, did you say? That's what you think about your backup plan.
There's one exactly. Do you know something? There's one thing being able to do something, it's another actually enjoying what you do.
True. But you are here today because of, like we all are, because of the path we went down. So it's quite interesting. Perhaps if you hadn't done that and things hadn't worked out the way they have, you might have regretted it.
Exactly. Do you know, I mean, from that point, I did that course, and then I moved down to Bournemouth, and I went to Bournemouth University, and
Bournemouth's gorgeous.
And I again studied in IT, computer science.
Wow. But you're a techie, Mark. Your technical abilities, as I know, because I have leaned on you throughout my entire career, your technical advanced abilities have been built into you from doing those choices, and those are so necessary in the world of performance. If you can do both,
I'm actually really impressed with you right now using this.
See? Thank you. I have been taught by a professional, and I'm really
impressed.
And I'm learning. I mean, you know me, I put myself down a lot, but
Mark, I've got a new printer. Where does the paper go?
I think you're right. My technical abilities, comparative to your,
you should be proud.
I'm learning, and the thing with me is you help me to, set up PA speakers and that kind of thing. And, like yourself, I was performing internationally and able to put all my PA together. So I must have some technical abilities, except that was all thanks to your guidance. So going back to your roots, if you hadn't learned that technical advancement and you'd just gone straight into the singing, Mark, maybe you wouldn't have had those roots. So you've got the computer backdrop, the technical.
I agree with you. Do you know, although I didn't go down the route of, I mean, I knew by the time I'd finished the course at university, it's not what I wanted to do. And by that point, I was actually kind of working in finance.
Yeah.
Mortgages at the time, and I kind of went into insurance and then back into finance over the next years. But the funny thing about it was all those things that I did set me up for what I do today.
The interesting thing with people like ourselves, when we are doing our own self-performance, and we've had Randall Butler, the very talented Randall, who's a George Michael tribute. He's been on the podcast. And we both spoke so highly of you, and we both speak so highly of him. And that's the great thing about this industry, that we are there to support each other. And he also, you and I, you had the ability, Mark, to do the technical voice laying, the overlaying, the recording the music, so that it's so that the sound quality and all these different, the microphone technique and all of that. You're not just the artist. So share with us the hybrid of skill sets that you need to be an independent artist, because we haven't got techies on the road with us. We're on our own.
Do you know, I think first and foremost, just in the performance aspect of it, I believe the art of doing it is making it look easy. So when
Yeah.
someone watches it, they go, "That's easy."
Yeah.
They don't realize just what's going on. It's like, I know, every performer is different. I know for me, when I'm on a stage, in my head I might be smiling or saying something, but my head is going, the brain cogs are going 10 to the dozen. It's like I'm looking the room, I'm scanning the room, and I'm thinking, I need to take this next song more upbeat. I'm losing their interest over there.
Yes.
These ones are really into it. I need to go over there. By going over there, it's going to get those people, because people are generally like lemmings. No disrespect to people in general, but people, if you see one person dance, others generally will get up and
100%.
dance. And
100%.
so it's always scanning the audience, reading your audience. At the same time, you're thinking, oh, bloody hell, what's the next lyric to this song? It's about to start. And you're thinking, okay, and you've got all the lyrics of the songs in your head. You've got that going on. At the same time, you're thinking, that sound quality is not quite right. That's too loud. I need to lower this. I need to change the delay settings on this, on this delay with this reverb, because it's a slower song, and I want it to, and it's all this going on at the same
It's
time.
not just it's not like karaoke where everything's laid on and you stand and you hold your mic and you hope it's got reverb and you sing a song. It's not that. It's a foot pedal and a monitor and feedback and the music and the timing. And the best bit is when you're halfway through a song and some guy pulls the mic out of your hand and says, "Have you got any Tina Turner?" As if
it happens all the time.
And wonders
Maybe not
why.
Tina Turner, but...
Yeah, and wonders why the song has stopped, because they think you're a DJ. So they forget that you're live vocally singing, and they wonder why all the singing has suddenly stopped. They think you are literally a button.
I think the art of it is knowing how to wing it, because it will always go wrong at some point. It will always go wrong. Sometimes you can do a show and it can be, everything can go perfectly. The next time you can do a show and something can go wrong with the technology and the song suddenly speeds up and you've got to sing a Beatles medley sounding like a chipmunk.
That's a nice smooth transition. We were in a lovely nursing home locally, weren't we? And we were invited to perform to the residents, who were just delightful. And this happens quite a lot, doesn't it, in our career, where we get these golden opportunities, because every audience to us has always been equally beautiful. And I absolutely love the elderly community. I do. And so for us to sing in this nursing home as our duo, which was called Harmony, and you had preset, I think, the music, and the Beatles medley that we had accidentally was 3 times the speed. And my goodness,
which incidentally made it 3 times higher
for you.
Yeah, because you were singing a lower harmony, which was fine. It was fine. It was interesting.
I think I started mid-range, to which you went higher, to which I went lower, and by the end, the tears, we couldn't hide the tears.
I don't think I could even look at you.
We couldn't. The giggles were just unbelievable, and I think that's the only time we've corpsed, and I think the residents were loving it and laughing and thinking it was part of it, and nobody knew. I think my Auntie Joan at the back was crying, laughing like we were. But honestly,
do Beatles.
It's been a hard day's night.
However, I do remember one thing which I'm going to have to remind you of, which is absolutely amazing, and I'm not going to fully say it, but I remember you on a lovely gig that you did very regular many years ago. I think it was the Cliffs Hotel, and you were singing a lovely rendition of Lulu's version of Lulu's part in Relight My Fire, and I remember you seeming to get the S and the H mixed up with Hope in My Soul, with this lovely hand action and audible gasps from all these older patrons in this hotel. It's okay. I've done things like this. I remember one particular Christmas afternoon show for these old dears. It was a lovely kind of like afternoon meal thing at Christmas time. and I'm singing "Let It Snow, Let It Snow, Let It Snow," and I don't know why, but instead of saying I've got some, well, singing, I've got some corn for popping.
You don't need to say it.
Yes, you can imagine. And I wanted literally the ground to swallow me up. And I don't know why. I think it was nerves, and it just came out
Backwards.
like that.
But I mean, you're absolutely right. It's these moments do happen, but it's those are your joy, because we're not a record, and I think that's
No.
important for people to hear today. We are not a record. So everything, as you said, every performance is going to be slightly different, and we're going to be different. We're going to have perhaps more nerves at one venue than another, or we're exhausted. Sometimes we might have done a 6-hour road trip, and that's the bit people don't understand goes with performance. There's a lot of physical driving. I mean, you have driven to Greece. That's incredible.
Yeah, a few times.
That's incredible, Mark.
It's interesting. Italy is lovely to drive in. Never do it.
But you've just, these are the things that go with the job. There's a lot of travel. It's setting up your PA speakers out the back of the car, setting up and then breaking down at the end of the night, as in not just emotionally, but physically breaking your set down.
I think that's the hardest part for me, actually.
Yeah, me too.
Because I always think that, I remember someone telling me years ago, always be nice on the way up, be nice with everyone, because there's always a way down. And I think it's nice to be nice anyway. There's no
of course it is.
need to be rude. And you'll always have people that might want a photograph, when you're in your regalia, you've just done your show, and you inside you think, I'm knackered. My feet are hurting in these platforms. I just want to pack down. It's going to take me nearly an hour to pack down. And I just want to go home. But it's at the end of the day, it's still part of the job.
Of course it is. Of course it is. And I agree wholeheartedly with you there, Mark, because that's the essence of you and your heart as well. I believe anyway, you've got to be a good person, and you're blessed that you are of that ethic anyway. But also, as you say, even when you're very, very tired, you go that extra mile, and you have the smile, and you've got your big regalia on, your brilliant costume, and those are the bits that people can't wait for. They've been clapping and cheering and enjoying it. They're on the holidays, which must also up the level from the excitement and adrenaline, and often you're the magic of the week. Some people do actually book holidays to come and watch you. I've seen that happen, so that's really nice.
It's really nice, actually. I mean, I just had a comment on my Facebook group just earlier on from a lady that said, well, waited a year, we'll see you for this, but we'll see you next week. So and it's really nice that it's nice that people remember you, and because you get to speak to them, they get to know you as well.
Yeah,
they get to know you not just as the person in the glasses and the sequins. They get to see the human side of you, and I think that's, for me, that's important. It's I'm not Elton John at the end of the day. I'm Mark. And I do, it's a job, but it's a job I love, but it's still a job.
Yeah.
I'm tributing a person I absolutely think is amazing. So first and foremost, I'm a fan. That's another thing. But at the end of the day, I am still me. Yeah. And it's nice when all those layers get stripped off, that people get to see that I am just this ordinary person that goes shopping in Lidl, and goes and pays the bills.
You're very, very humble and generous with your time, with your love, and all of those things. So I'm sure over in Greece, and I think you've said sometimes you've done that massive, massive physical journey from the UK over to Greece on your own in your car, I mean, not just flying. And I think you once told me that a neighbour very kindly over there brought you a soup when you just, got into the house. Tell me about that.
Yes, that actually was a time though where I didn't drive that particular time.
Okay.
I did fly, but it was a long journey because it was out of season, so there's no direct flights to the island in the winter. So you have to go to Athens, then get a connecting flight to the island. And sometimes the connecting flights can be literally 2 hours apart, or it can be 7, 8 hours, even more, 12 hours away, which I've done before now. And this particular time, it was a long wait. It was early, the flight. It was just post-COVID restrictions.
Yeah.
And I'd just been back to the UK, and I'd come back here. And my neighbour just knocked on my door 5 minutes after I'd got dropped off. And there was this, and they were just there like that. And they speak hardly any English, and there with this pan of a soup called fasolada. It's like a very thick, what we'd kind of call a stew, really.
Yeah.
It's like a bean soup. It's a Greek bean soup, and it's so lovely with this bread, and it really meant so much to me.
Yeah.
I had hardly anything in, nothing fresh anyway.
Wow.
I think it was a Sunday as well that had arrived on, and it was just a really nice thing to do. And I think, something, if everyone was just a bit more like that with each other, wouldn't this world be an amazing place? Being really ill later that summer while I was working here.
Yeah.
And I actually ended up in hospital, and it was a specific friend who I'm going to call out, Christos Trepas. He is a very, very dear friend of mine. He always will be. He's like a brother from another mother.
Oh.
He's my Greek brother.
Yeah.
He came one day with some food supplies, and it turned out I had infectious mononucleosis, glandular fever to you and me, and I caught it at 38 years old from sharing a microphone.
Okay.
And on one of my shows, stupidly.
This is in 2018.
2018, and I was really ill, really, really ill. And he grabbed me, put me in his car, took me to hospital. I'd not had fluids. I couldn't drink. My mouth, everything was swollen or closed up. And I'd not had fluids for about nearly 48 hours. And it was in a bad way.
Yeah.
And he saved my life. But life does throw curveballs. It does.
Yeah.
And you know something? For me, I find you an inspiration.
But what I love about you is we got on instantly from the day we met, didn't we?
We did, actually. Do you know, it's really funny. I think some certain people you meet in life and you just instantly connect with on a deeper level, and you can't even explain it. You can't describe it. There's just, you look at some people in the eyes and it's like you've known them forever.
Then we started to do a group called Harmony, and together we would go touring around. And we also went down, we did not Nessendorma. What did we do? The prayer, which was
Pacelli and Celine Dion.
Say that again, Mark.
Andrea Pacelli and Celine Dion.
Yes, we did. You were Celine, and I did a very good. I did a very good Andre.
It's those lumps they moved there. Gave you a cracking Adam's apple. There you go. Turned her into a great tenor.
All that shaving at age 13. I did well. So we did that, and we also one of my favourite memories of us is we also became singing waiters. So I would be Jessie J tribute. I had an 80s diva show. Tell us a bit about what you did. You were also Ollie Murs, weren't you, originally?
Yeah, well, actually, before I started Ollie, I spent a year in a Take That duo.
Okay.
And I had my very first season in Corfu, actually, that I did that one particular year. But then I kind of went my own way and did the Ollie Murs tribute.
And I think you did Michael Bublé at one point.
I did, yes.
Yeah.
I did.
So
I did those concurrently, actually. And but the one thing, when I was so happy to give up the Ollie Murs tribute, because it wasn't me. I could do it fine, and it was fun, but I didn't.
You didn't sit on you. You weren't being it, I think is what you're saying. You were acting it, and the Elton, it sits on you. It's the essence, and the fact that you can play the keyboard as well.
I'm going to be totally honest about it. Actually, I think there's a lot within society now, especially. There's a lot of things said, and everyone's got their own different opinion on whether a straight person should play a gay character or a gay character should play a straight person. Personally, for me, I think, do you know what? If you're an artist, first and foremost, choose the best artist and don't bring politics into it.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm a proud gay man, and it doesn't bother me if a gay person is represented by a straight person. Personally, it doesn't bother me at all. I
Good.
think she's the right person. I don't have any issue with that. Myself, however, personally, I felt a bit of a fraud sometimes myself doing the Ollie Murs
Oh, I
tribute.
see.
It used
Because you
to,
had a lot of women flocking over to you as well.
yeah, and I could do it, and it was fine, and it was all good fun.
Yeah.
But
It
just
wasn't the
me
authentic
personally,
you. It didn't feel
yeah,
authentic.
and I feel with Elton,
Yeah.
you know, he's come out twice his life, first as bisexual, then obviously as gay, and I absolutely love to just feel like I can put an element of myself and not care. And actually, I'm probably
Yeah.
far more flamboyant in the show than I ever would be in real life. One thing that did affect me, which I've not really talked about, and I hope you don't mind me just
No,
brushing upon it,
not at all.
is, and I realized through doing this work on myself over the years that I had very big problems that developed around food.
Okay.
And they developed from that childhood situation that I went through. I used food as a coping mechanism from around that age, and food became um, kind of a drug, shall we say, or a
Yeah.
very unhealthy thing within my life.
Yeah.
Um,
A way,
and
a way to cope.
yes, and the control of food.
Yeah.
And I actually did gain a lot of weight as a child. I got bullied for it. But then I kind of flip reversed and went totally crazy in another way and ended up with bulimia and periods of anorexia between the two, actually.
Yeah.
And I did seek medical treatment for it. Luckily, I actually, again, have a very great family.
Yeah.
I had a very, very poor negative self-image for a very long time. And I think now, where am I? I just want to be healthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where I'm at. Do I change as a person? Do the decisions I make as a person, do I love less as a person, whether I'm, you know, a stone bigger, a stone smaller? No. All those intricacies of who I am will always remain the same, regardless of the outside. And you said something totally spot on before. People that are very quick to judge in this business of entertainment, of singing, of being on a stage, of being an actor, and they don't know your personal story. And I know there's been points where I've had some really horrible things said over the years. But you know something now, it doesn't bother me. At the moment, I'm bigger. I have some ongoing medical reasons for that. I've been on some cortisone injections and tablets, which has given me a lovely moon face. But it's fine because at the moment I make a joke of it, and it doesn't bother me because it will go, and it will go in a healthy way. And you know, I'll just make a joke of it in my show, and I'll say, "Ladies and gentlemen," you know, in character, if you've enjoyed my show tonight, I'm exclusively Elton. However, if you've not enjoyed it, I'll pull the wig off, and I'm Johnny Vegas. Get you a cheeky monkey. You know, and it's absolutely fine. She's not my mother, she's my PA. And you
You make the best of the situation you're in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you know something? If you can smash the largest glass on a shelf, it doesn't mean that you're going to be the next largest glass. You're still going to be the same size.
Very good statement. Yeah, very good.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's not even just about physicality. Sometimes people are just so cruel with people in general, just about the most ridiculous things. People are so quick to judge, and that's something I do see a lot in social media. And unfortunately, social media plays a lot in today's world, in everything, in running a business, even in this is going to be social media. But you can also, at the end of the day, use social media for good. I have one friend who I think of as my second mother. She's lovely. She's called Wendy. She's called Wendy. She lives in the UK now. She used to live out here. And it's one thing that she always says, and it really sticks with me. There's no such thing as problems. There's only solutions. The one thing I would say about this particular type of job, working with, in the public eye, in being a singer, or whether you're an actor or whatever, the one thing you have to really learn is to realize that not all of it is real, and that love that you get isn't always real, and that a feeling of adrenaline rush that you get, it's not real, and you can learn to self-medicate too much from that as well. So you have to learn to realize, enjoy it, but it's not all real.
And we're sadly having to close now. Would you believe that's nearly the close of the podcast? It's
gone really quick. I've really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Mark. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And I want to also leave the last words with you. If anybody, first of all, where can people find you?
Okay. I work different resorts in Zakynthos, but obviously in social media terms, I have a Facebook group, and I'm also on Instagram, and I am called Exclusively Elton. So you can find me by searching Exclusively Elton. On my Facebook group, I do ask nothing crazy, but just a couple of questions, whether you see me or not. It's fine. I've kind of put it there because I get a lot of cranks trying to
marry you,
who actually try to pretend to be the real Elton John. So I kind of have to be careful who I let join with that. But yes, that's Exclusively Elton. Find me and join me. I also put my dates on because I still do some work when I'm in the UK, or if I'm looking potentially to go to Spain and do some work out of season as well, some winter work.
Wow.
So wherever I go, I put where I'm going to be on my social media. So you can find me and come and say hello.
And you really are one of the leading international artists to Elton John, and you're funny as well. You're not just embodying Elton, you are hilarious. There's some wonderful duets with the audience members. I mean, you're an fully interactive show, and you can also play the keyboards live, which is again an additional quality to your talents. So I just want to say thank you so much, Mark. It's been an absolute pleasure. If we perhaps because we have run out of time, we might call you back another day and do this again. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you today. Enjoy the rest of your sunny day in Zakynthos. And Mark Tedin, thank you so much for coming on today's podcast. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. To the crocodile from well, but I don't get something charming when you just can't stay. Never knew me a better time, and I guess I will. Running on the Friday nights, just tight, and the crocodile tell her I came out of sight.